Welcome back to some more Gran Turismo 4, and where this time we will now be doing our second championship in the extreme events, the Dream Car Championship. And if you're asking me why exactly I am starting the episode here, well, it's because I spent 50 credits to give this thing a car wash. And if you're asking why I'm 50 credits down compared to where I was before, well, it's because of that. And it's also because I switched over to the car we are using. So, all in all, I drove almost another 190 miles in this thing during the GT All-Stars Championship, which technically means that this car has pretty much served its purpose. I did give it a car wash as well, just because, well, I figured I wanted it to pretty much just, well, I figure now is the time for me to give that a rest, because there are no other ball-busting, prototype-related championships that I have to do. And now we're going to move on to our next car, and that is this. The Ford GT LM race car, Spec 2. For our third of 4 championships in this summer stretch section of the playthrough, we are 53.6% complete with the game. And I'm also going to split the Dream Car Championship up into 3 parts, because I really want to get these videos out there before I go on holiday again for another 2 weeks. And also, if I do it in 3 parts, then it means the videos will not take as long to get fully uploaded. But anyway, here's the tuning I did. So I put on the Stage 3 engine with the nitrous before that GT All-Stars attempt I did with this thing ultimately failed very suddenly. Well, not very suddenly, but you get the idea. And in terms of tyres, I also got the Racing Super Slicks and the Racing Slicks. And, well, the Racing Mediums, they come as standard. So yeah. Basically, I have bought all the mandatory parts I need. And now, before I waste any more of your time, let's get on with the Dream Car Championship. Also, if you like what I do around here, then I am trying to reach 750 subs before the end of September, possibly sooner, if you really want to support me at a more personal level, well, personal and or ingratiating level, then if you could like the video and possibly hit that subscribe button as well, then I would greatly appreciate it. And it would also show me that there are certain videos where I actually do a good job. Anyway, 10 race championship for the dream cars, 20 grand depending on how many races we win, and 200 grand if we win the championship overall. So the maximum number of credits we can get from this is about 400,000 if we get the sweep. So the races we're heading to are officially Opera Paris, Tokyo Route 246 Reverse, then we've got Deep Forest, followed by Seoul Central Reverse, and then we've got another 7 laps at the Forward Hong Kong course. Then we head to the driving park circuits of Test Course and then Beginner Course, and then we've got another 2 laps at Le Mans, followed by 4 laps at El Capitan Reverse, and then to finish off we've got 7 laps around the Monegasque circuit, which by the way is Monaco if you're asking. But anyway, let's begin the Dream Car Championship. So in terms of our competition here, we've got the Mitsubishi FTO Super Touring Car, also got ourselves a Pagani Zonda LM race car, which is ironically the same one that appeared in GT3. We've also got the Toyota RSC, the Honda NSXR prototype LM race car, and the Subaru Impreza Super Touring car. Now let's go to our settings and make the adjustments we need to make. So one thing I learned last time around is basically I absolutely need traction control if I am going to win with this thing. Because without traction control, I am completely useless against the Pagani Zonda. It is honestly just way too much power for me to try and tame without any sort of traction to just back me up. And plus, last time I did this, I got way too much wheel spin. So I am going to try my best to make sure that is prevented. I will still get a few snaps of oversteer here and there because, well, this thing is rear-wheel drive, but I think I should be okay. And in terms of our transmission, okay, that should be fine. And hopefully we've got everything we need. And hopefully this time I will not absolutely burn the fuck out of the tyres like I did before. So here we go for 7 laps around Opera Paris. Okay, here we go. Alrighty then, my dudes. Let's go for 7 laps around the opera that is Paris. And where hopefully this time I can manage to finish this in victory lane and not on a stretcher. So not quite as effective off the start this time around compared to last time, but either way, I'm okay with it because I am not burning out the tyres anywhere near as much as I was before, which is a good thing. Because one of the key things you need for Opera Paris, you definitely need a set of racing hard tyres to say the least. Plus, even though this race only offers 6 points, I can assure you it's definitely harder than 6 points. And that might also be because we're in the extreme events, but whatever. Point is, I am here now, and I am ready to go to war with the Pagani Zonda. So I am up into 2nd position. Hopefully the tyre wear I already have on this thing will not be too much of a problem once we really get into the meat of the race. But I managed to basically outflank the Zonda from the outside, and ultimately that now gives me the lead. As already, both of us are a long way ahead of the next fastest car, which I would be liable to assume is probably the Honda. If there's anyone that I think is going to be in P3, the Honda is definitely a strong candidate for that position, because of how he's more powerful than the two Super Touring cars. So 1.2 seconds is now the gap. I am slowly edging away from the Pagani at this time, but I do of course want to make sure that I am still able to manage my car in terms of its pace. This race may only offer 6 points, but I can assure you it's definitely worth more than 6 points. I would say that both the GT and the Zonda, in my opinion, are quite well matched. As a matter of fact, I would probably say this race is worth more like, I would say 30 points or thereabouts, depending on who you ask. But it's definitely worth more than 6 points in my opinion. But at the very least, I am glad to be up against the Zonda and not the Fairlady Z Concept LM, because if I was up against that car, I have a feeling I would probably be outmatched. Because the Fairlady Z is easier on the tyres, and also because, well, in general, it's just a better handling car than either the GT or the Zonda. I can pretty much just say that now. The Zonda is keeping me honest, and it looks as though at this point of the race, like, we are very much engaged in battle. Which in all honesty is what I expected from this. I'm not really able to separate myself from him, so that does mean the Zonda must be running pretty good as well through some of these corners. I would say I'm able to edge out a 2-second gap at most, but then as soon as that happens, for one reason or another, he just seems to close the gap again in the corners where he is slightly faster than me. And maybe that might be because I'm doing it on purpose, but under the circumstances, you do have to make sure that you don't break your car up when you head through these tight cornering sections. You really have to make sure your car is on it. And at this time, I can safely say that my car is on it. I don't think I'm going to be separated from the Zonda for too long, because the Zonda is pretty good through this cornering section. Unless he seems to be having a few more tyre dramas than me. And if that is the case, then well, it's clear to say that using the racing slicks, well, they were the better choice. I could have used the super slicks and potentially got 15 points, but right now, for this being the first race, and the fact that I am trying to do this during a summer heat wave, I'm honestly glad to just basically get whatever points. I'm honestly just glad to get whatever points I can manage to salvage. Which at this point is easily better than nothing. Alright, and I set a new best lap time of a 1 minute 19.1, and I have now got less than a 4-second gap over the Pagani Zonda, and the rest of the field have their intervals, which means we are very much spread out for this. And the Zonda is catching up again, but I am strongly convinced in saying he's not going to be too much of a threat before this race is done. As long as I don't make any major mistakes, I should pretty much be fine with this. So, on the back stretch once again, and heading into this left-hand flick, which under the circumstances you do both have to lift and downshift to make it through the corner without hitting the outside concrete wall. This is definitely what I would consider to be a very technical course because of its low speed corner entries through a lot of these corners. There is one long straightaway, but I would say the rest of the course is mainly dictated by the amount of low speed corner entries and exits that you have to get through some of these corners to really nail it. And I seem to have managed my tyres really well. And it looks as though it is going to be me who draws first blood over the Pagani Zonda. How will that look in the rest of the championship? Oh, you'll just have to stay tuned to find out. But it seems as though my slick tyre gamble has paid off, and I am going to get the first 10 points of the championship. And also set a new best lap time in the process of a 1:18.4 almost. Oh, okay. It was the Subaru who took P3 over the Honda, and I won by 5.8 seconds in the end over the Zonda. Not bad. So that's your order after race 1. Now we'll see how we do for the rest of the championship. I figured if I was going to pull this off effectively, then I did need a set of racing slick tyres so I could get to the end. So that's our first 20 grand of the championship, and that's the order after race 1. Now we move on to race number 2. And where this time we are at Tokyo Route 246 reverse for 4 laps. So, I think from what I can see, we should be okay with this. I mean, these are basically sprint races after all, so yeah, we'll just go as we are. Race 2 of the Dream Car Championship. And off to a good start so far, as I immediately clear the Honda, and now the Subaru, and the Mitsubishi with my straight line speed, and give a little bit of a bump there to the Toyota, as I get side bumped by, I think that was the FTO initially, but then the Subaru came through and bumped me out the way as well. But either way, it's actually been a while since I last raced on Tokyo Route 246 reverse, if I remember correctly. I think it was during the Japanese events when I last raced at Tokyo reverse in this game. At least I think that's when it was. I mean, it's definitely been a while since I last raced on the reverse circuit for sure. I know that for sure. As I close in on the Pagani, get a slight hit there in that right-angled corner. And get a slightly better exit off the final left-hander than the Zonda. I do have the slightly better speed. I am closing in on him as we're now going above 180 and upshifting whilst I'm at it. I just go above 190 before hitting the brakes. Probably a little too soon there because the Zonda bumped me from behind. But immediately, just like that, I go up into the lead. And that did not take too much time at all, if I do say so myself. Well, I probably knew it was coming either way, because that's just how good my car really is in terms of raw speed. And just as we did before, both myself and the Pagani are very much leaving the pack far behind us. This is very much a two-horse race compared to whatever the fuck everyone else is doing. I imagine the Honda probably is going to be a contender for third place in the championship later on, if it hasn't got the form it's got right now. I mean, the Honda is definitely a more powerful car than the Subaru, so I think he probably will get some form as we get deeper into the championship. But either way, it looks like we're going to be here for another battle. As I hit 190 heading into turn 1, the turn 1 hairpin I believe, which is also the final hairpin on the normal course. And as I would have guessed, everyone is pretty much becoming spread out. But either way, I'm engaged in a dogfight with the Pagani for now, and getting a few snaps of oversteer here and there, but managing to hold on just as well, which is what I need to be doing. And at this time, we're definitely in a class of our own compared to everyone else. Still, I do quite like the diversity among the cars we get as opponents in this championship, because we have one Polyphony designed rally car, which by the way was originally seen in GT Concept. There's also the two Super Touring cars, and aside from that there's also the Polyphony Digital LM class, which is basically what myself, the Pagani, and the Honda NSX are very much in. So one lap to go here in Tokyo, as it looks as though this has definitely been another close fought thriller of a battle between myself and the Pagani. Another one to add on to a couple of other thrilling battles that I've had more or less throughout the game, give or take. Well, at least for most of this game, anyway. But right now, I am just steadily holding on to my advantage. He tries to dive up the inside, however I shut the door just in time to give myself the breathing space. And because I was slightly faster on the corner exit, I have successfully defended my first place. I don't blame him for going for the move because I was a little wide on the entry, but either way, I have managed to hold off the Pagani Zonda once again, and that is now 2 wins in a row. and I won in the end by 6/10. And I think the Subaru actually is doing pretty well at the moment. Over the Honda. I really don't know what's going on with the Honda right now, but either way, probably doesn't matter for now because at this time we're very much in the Noah's Ark positions in terms of our finishing positions. But either way, I did beat the Pagani in a thriller of a battle here in Tokyo, and those are your point standings after 2 races. And so, the game's mascot car reigns supreme again. And now that's a good time for me to save a replay, because I have not saved a replay at Tokyo Reverse for a while, if ever. I actually don't remember the last time I saved a replay at Tokyo Reverse. It was definitely a while ago, but either way, don't know and don't care. The replay is being saved, and I have scored 2 wins in a row with the Spec 2 Ford GT race car. So we've got 2 more races to do in this part, and then afterwards we can move on to part 2. Since that seems like the best choice. So 5 laps of Deep Forest. We're just gonna go racing. We don't really need to change anything, we've got everything we need. We've also got the nitrous installed just in case. I wouldn't think tyre wear is really going to be too much of an issue at this stage of the championship. We seem to be doing okay for now. As I have cleared the Subaru and the Honda and also the Toyota now as quickly as you would have expected. I almost go for a spin in that one corner. I give a little bump there to the FTO, but nothing egregious. And now I have to set off after the car that I won the GT All-Stars with in GT3. At least I'm pretty sure it was the Zonda that I used for that. But anyway, gap is 2.2 seconds. The sturdy but grippy racing slicks are helping me out pretty well. I think I was a little bit slow there on that corner exit, but either way, I am closing in on the Zonda and very much expecting another dogfight. The way I see things. Or at least a dogfight for the next 2 laps, depending on how much of a gap I can build ahead of him. But anyway, 1 second to the Zonda as I immediately run wide and almost get caught out by the grass there, but somehow being successful in holding serve. And right now, we seem to be serving ourselves pretty well. So I have a 1.3 second gap to the Zonda. Still a little bit slow there on that corner exit, but either way, I have now built up a gap to the Zonda because my car is slightly better through the corners. So I think at this time, we're not doing too badly. I am making mistakes here and there, but they're not serious ones. And it looks as though at this point, like I have very much cleared Mr. Pagani. And of course you also have the rest of the pack, which is, well, very much a long way behind us, as you might have guessed. So got a 3-second gap now to the Zonda. Doesn't look as though this one is going to be quite the dogfight that we had in Tokyo. But in all honesty, I'm okay with that because I'm still building up my advantage. So, almost 3.2 seconds at the end of lap 3. And at this time, we seem to be doing okay, as I have got less than a 4-second advantage now over the Zonda. Don't really need to push it too hard because I have a big enough gap at this point to hold my position. And right now that is probably the best choice I can make. And that's probably the best corner exit I've had up to this point of the race yet, as I improved by 0.7 of a second and just hit 170 as I head into the first hairpin. And at this point, we are very much dashing away from everyone else. Or at least we were before that happened. But either way it's fine because I have a almost 5.6 second gap over the Pagani Zonda. At this point probably doesn't surprise me. But either way, we are still making sure to hold on. 5-second gap to the Pagani, so it looks as though this is very much my race to lose. And there we go. 3 races down and 3 wins. And a winning margin in the end of 5.4 seconds. And, what do you know? The Honda finally scored his first podium of the championship. And I reckon that probably won't be the last. But anyway, so the Impreza finishes P5, which means the Honda is now going to tie him for 3rd in the standings. And the FTO and Toyota, well, they're basically just there mostly. But there we go. 3 races and a hat-trick of wins to compensate for my dominance with the GT so far. So now we've got one more race to go in part 1, and then afterwards we can focus on the other 2 parts. As we've got Seoul Central Reverse. And because this course is dependent on speed, I would imagine this probably will be a battleground from what I can see. So we've got a tie for third between the Subaru and the Honda. So I reckon this is probably where that tie is going to get resolved, is what me thinks. But either way, here we go. 7 laps around Seoul Central. Yeah, 7 laps around Seoul Central reverse. And basically, I know what I have to do. As I bully the Toyota out the way. And the Honda has now already cleared him. I think it's only a matter of time before that Honda clears the FTO as well. And likewise, this is where I slowly but surely nip away the gap to the Pagani's Honda. A tactic that I have used so effectively so far. And also because we have straightaways on this course. And I brake too soon. That was a little bit too soon there on the brakes. Heading into turn 1, but either way, I am closing in on the Zonda, which is what I expect myself to do under the circumstances. And I think I am getting a bit of his slipstream as well, as the gap is now less than a second, and still braking too soon, but either way, it's a very wide turn 1, so in some cases you do have to step on the brakes earlier than you think you should. So, I'm now closing in on the Zonda and going around the outside as we head into the roundabout complex, or trying to, and that's a wall. I almost had a spin there, but thankfully able to save it. And we're side by side on the straightaway. I just managed to nip in front of him. And I think I braked at just the right time there to not go into the concrete. That was very close to disaster, but although I flirted with it, I did not fall for it. And we've very much got separation again over the rest of the field, which is pretty much becoming second nature at this point. And likewise, because my car is slightly faster than that of the Zonda, that is partly the reason why I'm currently doing well. And that's honestly where I want to keep it. Oh, I've gone too deep, and I hit the inside wall. That did not go very well. But anyway, I still have a stronger pace than the Pagani at this point, which in all honesty is actually pretty good at this time. So, a 2-second gap now to the Pagani. And it looks as though at this point, like, this is very much going to be where I separate myself from him again. Because I know how to separate myself. And also because, well, just in general around here, the AI don't usually seem to get as much of an advantage as the player might get. But anyway, 3.3 seconds is now the gap. And I very much imagine at this point, like, that is not going to change. Also, something else I noticed is we are going to pass 50 miles driven by the time we're done here. Which means after the first 4 races, we will have driven precisely, I would say 50 miles, maybe 51. As I improve slightly on that lap. And 4.6 seconds is now the gap, so I highly doubt the Zonda is going to close that gap. I'm also not too far off overlapping the Toyota as well, now that I think about it. I think if there was 1, maybe 2 more laps in this race, I probably could overlap the Toyota if I really wanted to, but I know I'm not going to get there in time because, well, I don't think I'm quite fast enough to make that happen. He's going to reach the final lap before I catch him anyway, so it's fine. And there we go. 4 wins in a row. And pretty easy ones as well, I might add. And the Subaru has really fallen back in these last 2 races. I mean, he was 3rd in points and then suddenly he just fell back to 5th. I have no idea how that happened. But anyway, I figured the Honda was going to come through eventually, and he has proved it. So these are your points now after 4 races, and also 4 victories. 40 points to me, 24 points to the Pagani, 14 points to the Honda, 12 points to the Subaru, 10 points to the FTO, and 4 points to the RSC. And so there we go. That was part 1 of Dream Car Championship. And next time we will be doing part 2. Coming in the next episode.